When you make the right pairing, unexpected things happen. But one thing is for sure, a great partnership makes all the difference.
That's why we're very excited to host our first ever Speakeasy podcast guests, Robin and Betsy Miner-Swartz. Robin and Betsy are not only one of the best duos we know, but they are dear friends and colleagues.
And they have a pretty cool partnership of their own with Smirnoff Vodka. The Speakeasy Podcast. Honest conversations about leadership and sanity in the creative industry. I'm Karen Steffel.
And I'm Jen Estel. Managing creativity in business, we probably have an opinion on that.
No prohibitions.
Clearly, we have cocktails. Betsy and Robin, tell us a little bit about who you are.
I'm Robin, and my wife Betsy and I are both recovering journalists. We met when we worked at the Lansing State Journal. Feels like a million years ago now. And we were friends for a lot of years. We've been together for 15 years. I now have left that career, went into community philanthropy for a time, and now own my own editing and consulting business.
Organ and tissue donation is my passion and my job. And I also am super fortunate to be working with Karen, who's been helping Gift of Life through Render with some amazing storytelling. And so all that's really cool. And
Betsy, tell us about your weekend job of laying tile and renovating old cottages.
Well, I talked Robin into allowing us to fix up our old place on the lake. And at this point, a year later, I promised her, I said, I got you into this, babe. I'm going to get you out. And all we've been doing is working for the past year. And it's because I failed to manage her expectations. She thought it was going to be done in 6 weeks. We started it last May.
It is on HGTV.
It is now May.
Because it happens in 17 minutes.
Right.
So, yeah, it's coming along. But
the most recent tile job picture that I saw on Facebook, the mosaic hallway, is damned impressive.
It's amazing.
She's fearless with home projects, and she's good at them, which helps. She will watch a YouTube video on how to swap out your hot water heater, and she'll just do it. Yeah.
So that must make you, our theme is partnership, right? So that must make you guys really good partners. So what's your role in home renovation?
I'm the errand runner and shopper.
Yeah, so stay out of the way.
Yes, I make multiple trips to Home Depot because every good project takes multiple trips to Home Depot in the middle of it. It's more challenging up at our place up north because round trip, that's an hour. A little easier here in Lansing.
So when I need some me time, I ask her to go pick up some screws. And then she's just gone for a really long time.
And you get out the Netflix and everything's
right,
well.
Exactly.
Right.
Meanwhile, you guys have like 70 pounds of screws at the cottage.
Oh my goodness. See, I could go off on these tangents for a really long time. So I don't even honestly remember when I met you people. We've all known each other for a while. And we've worked together in multiple capacities, right? So that's sort of how this came to be. We can talk about that all we want, but really we want to hear about the Smirnoff thing. Do you guys want to tell us what's going on?
My version is this. Every now and then I'll come home from work and Robin will say something like, so I didn't really tell you about this, but 6 months ago I signed us up for our faces to be on a label of vodka, and it was the chances of us being chosen were like 1,000,001. And guess what? Our faces are going to be on a bottle of vodka.
I literally forgot this happened because there was such a long stretch between the sign up and when we found out that it actually happened. But I think the contest was announced shortly after we got married for the second time. And so I should probably explain that too.
Yeah, because you guys have been married twice.
Right.
Yeah.
In a row.
Well, no.
One was legal, one was not.
We're very particular about that.
So the first time we had a ceremony, we called it our mitzvah because it was not currently legal in Michigan. It was in 2008. And we wanted to get married. We wanted to get married legally, but we wanted to also get married in Michigan. But we wanted to have a ceremony while Betsy's mom was still with us. She had been diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and we had lost her dad a couple years prior. And we wanted to have a meaningful ceremony that she could be here to be a part of. So we had what in all other ways felt like a regular wedding, but it was not legal. So we called it a mitzvah.
It was a commitment ceremony. It was a mitzvah because you're Jewish.
Yes, exactly. We made up that word and we just like it a lot. So we had a great time, great party. And then when it was finally legal in Michigan, we needed to do it again for real. So we asked my dad and stepmom if we could borrow their backyard, and we did it again. And about 3 months after that is when Smirnoff announced their competition. This is the second year, I believe, they've done this in partnership with HRC. And so I signed us up because I sign us up for everything. And we are used to we call ourselves spokespeans because we're often the only gay couple people know. And we get asked to do interviews about things now and then.
Well, the TV stations in town know
Yes.
us. So that's the other thing. Like I would come home from work and Rob would be like, yeah, WLNS is going to be here in 20 minutes. We're going to be on the air as the spokespeans. And I'm
They
just
wanna
like,
talk to us about gay
what
marriage.
are you talking about? Yeah, change your shirt. We're going on the air.
So the journalist never really went away in you.
No.
No, and I think part of that too, not only because you're fabulous, but you're also known communication entities, and so you already have those connections with other fellow journalists.
That is very true too. And quite frankly, we are grateful that we live in a community and come from families that are very supportive of us. So it is not as risky for us to be out front as it is for some people, especially in the years leading up to when same-sex marriage became legal. So that's why I sign us up for so many things, because I'm so excited.
So can I back up on why we were particular? We didn't really explain that. So when we had our commitment ceremony, Robin was one to, on occasion, introduce me as her wife, and some other people were like, oh, this is Robin's wife, Betsy. And my whole point then was, no, it's not legal yet. We actually cannot, we are not allowed to use that word because we're not legally allowed to use that word. And until we can use that word, we're not going to use that word. Mm-hmm. And so we stopped using it. And even other people were like, hey, that's somebody's, Robin's wife, Betsy's wife. I don't know. Do you get it?
Yeah.
We didn't allow ourselves to go there until we really could go there.
You needed to hold out until you got the ultimate goal.
Absolutely.
Right? That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think too, especially because we live in a pretty friendly community, it could be taken for granted that you could be so out and people would just, accepting, but it matters. The legal part of it mattered.
Yeah, and it was endearing for other people to identify us as wives, but inside I was like, nope, that's not really a thing yet. Mm-hmm. So
yeah.
So when it did become a thing, I just signed us up for everything.
Which got us here.
A little bit. So you did mention that Smirnoff has a partnership with HRC. Go a little bit more deeply into what that is. So there's HRC. They have a Love Wins campaign.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Yeah, well, there, and the Love Wins campaign is something that is tied with HRC and Smirnoff, but it's also a hashtag that, frankly, everybody has been using, especially surrounding the Supreme Court ruling back in 2016, and so 2015. Wow, it's been that long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So these bottles feature married couples, or not even all married couples, just couples in relationships who are happy about who they are and being out and proud. And so I figured, that's us, right? And we had this great photo from our wedding that actually is not the one that's going to be featured. It was one of the two we sent in of us holding up our marriage license in front of the pride flag at my dad and stepmom's house. But the one they chose, of course, was the goofier one with us making kissy faces at Randy and John's wedding, which is also a good photo. But
even though my hair is terrible.
Your hair looks great on the rainbow iridescent label. You're fine.
It does. You guys look adorable.
So they chose 100 of these couples across the country, and there was just a long gap between me sending all that stuff in and us finding out. So yeah, Betsy came home one day and I said, hey...
Despite the fact that I do communications for a living, I have spent 6 months not telling you something.
I missed this opportunity.
Touche. Well, before we talk about this amazing drink, the last thing I want to mention is not only does Smirnoff do these bottles in partnership with HRC, but some of the money from the purchases of the vodka goes to HRC.
Which is wonderful.
Yeah,
absolutely,
I don't want to step
wonderful.
over that.
Yes.
Awesome. So on that note, Jen, I want you to describe this drink because it's kind of amazing.
It is kind of amazing. We were really excited for our friends, so we decided we're in the business of drinking great cocktails. So this is a wonderful excuse to drink one with friends. And we invented a cocktail we're calling Lovin Time. That's Thyme. It's a great combination of lavender and chamomile tea, lavender bitters, thyme, lemon, and soda. Mix that all with Smirnoff and then garnish it with a little sprig of thyme, and it's beautiful. And so you can all go find your favorite Smirnoff bottle. I think there are, 100 couples featured. Yes. So there's lots of bottles to choose from. If you find Robin and Betsy on your shelves, you'll be very lucky. And make this lovely drink. It's perfect for your patio this summer, I guarantee it.
I can't wait to put your faces in my liquor cabinet.
It's so creepy. In a good way.
Yeah.
We'll just be watching
I'm pretty pumped about that. Actually, I'm going to put you on top of my liquor cabinet then. It'll be awesome.
Right.
Little creepy moving eyes. Mm-hmm. Like Scooby-Doo.
If it was like a Harry Potter, shot where you guys were moving and kissing in it, that would be even better.
Ooh.
Someday.
I feel like in the future that will happen.
In the future, for sure. So anyway.
That's a GIF in the making.
That is a GIF in the making. So we are here talking about partnerships, and it's all because of this interesting partnership they've got going on. And there's just so many connections here. And our question kind of is, what does it take for a good partnership?
Trust is huge with it. But I think what we go back to all the time when we talk about why we work together so well is that we worked together so well. We have a long history as friends and colleagues prior to our relationship. And so we understand how to work together and how to, this sounds so unsexy, but treat each other professionally and as adults. And I think coming to the table both as communicators and people who come from a similar communications background, we communicate well.
Well, I think what I hear you say inside of professionalism is respect.
Yep. Huge.
Yeah. And so you already had that kind of foundation of respect.
Yeah, we also talk about appreciation a lot. We appreciate each other for our strengths and weaknesses. So Robin appreciates my tile work, and I appreciate some things about her that she does really well.
Like what?
Well, when the dog pukes, that's not me.
I'm the puke parent.
There's always one.
Yep. I'm also IT support in our house.
Mm-hmm. Which is incredible.
I iron all your shirts.
Wait, there's an iron?
Yep.
Nice. She likes it.
I like it. I really enjoy it.
What kind of time continuum do you guys live in? Holy shit.
The thing, though, that's interesting to hear about this is you're talking about a personal relationship, but it's using those components that you would use in a professional relationship. Having clear boundaries or clear strengths. I'm good at X, you're good at Y. I will do this for you, you will do that for me. So that does have a level of trust and communication to it, and sort of some great boundaries. And we are so likely to have those things in our work environment, and we sometimes forget them with the people we love.
No, I think your point's really well founded, Jen. I think back to Robin talking about being professional, I think that sometimes we have such good boundaries at work, and so we're able to be appropriate with people and check ourselves that maybe sometimes we do less at home. I'm sure your relationship isn't perfect. I'm sure that there are times.
Yeah, it is really. No.
Well, like Betsy said earlier about she didn't manage my expectations correctly on the cabin remodel, we actually do work hard to manage each other's expectations about things and be clear about what to expect, whether it's I'm taking her to a Broadway show, or she's taking me up to the cabin to do a project in the garage. We try and balance with, okay, here's what's going to happen, and here's what we're going to get out of it.
And here's what you're going to hate.
Right.
But it's only going to be for 35 minutes.
And because of this, we've developed a phrase we use all the time now, which is, I can't wait until this is a memory. So when we're navigating something we don't enjoy, we're able to pull that out and laugh at it.
We laugh
a lot.
All the damn time.
I have used that ever since you said something to me about that when our house flooded. I have used that. I can't wait till this is a memory. Just like Robin told me, I can get through it. So it's a really good tactic.
I'm actually going to use that. It's rare that Jen and I record a podcast that I don't steal something that I take home. It's like, how can we make 2 steps forward? Jen has taught me that. And it's, can't wait till this is a memory. I feel like that's going to be said tonight to my 3-year-old. It's like,
right.
When you fall asleep and all this tantrum, it'll be my memory.
That's right.
Thank God.
So managing expectations is really about communication, right? And a lack of good communication can totally erode trust.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm reminded of those like fall exercises, right, in school, except for when those don't work, which really sucks.
We'll all catch you if you fall, Karen, we promise.
Yeah. Well, in my professional relationships, I feel an incredible amount of trust. I know that nobody's going to let the thing fall as long as that great communication is always in place or those expectations are always spoken. And I feel like that way at home too, except for managing the expectations is different. Managing the expectations sometimes is like, hey, I'm disappearing for a month and I expect you to make it all happen for me at home.
Expect no one to die.
Yeah, just keep all the nutrition happening.
Don't lose a child.
There was actually a conversation this morning, like maybe everybody sleeps in the same bed to maintain sanity. But feed them.
Yeah.
Do that.
Kind of important.
The cool thing about partnerships is you get this communication shorthand, right? So you can say something that's really short and sweet and the other person knows what you're talking about. So that's where good partnerships and communication become a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, and the reason Betsy is chuckling and pointing at me is because our shorthand is actually something that does not translate in a podcast, but we, at the very beginning of our relationship, developed this, like, Samantha from Bewitched nose wiggle that we do when we're on the other side of the room and it's like, I need to get out of here or you need to come help me. And so, yeah, that.
You can wiggle your nose.
Yeah.
You guys, they can wiggle their noses. This is amazing.
Hers is
Yep.
You too?
nose wiggle times 3. Oh, Jen, what's wrong with you?
Oh,
you got
can I
it.
do it?
You got it.
I feel like that's nostril flaring. This is different than Bewitched.
But it's even that kind of shorthand where we can be in the most stressful, terrible situations and the other one just looks up and does that and we instantly know what has to happen.
Honestly, we've both done it simultaneously.
Yeah, we have.
Do you think that kind of communication and effective trust can happen with a fresh or new relationship?
I don't ever want to find out.
Kissy face. What about in a professional setting? I mean, you're not going to wiggle your nose at somebody at work,
Right.
but I don't know, maybe. Ross on Friends had the shorthand where he pumped his fists together, which is ridiculous.
I think what it gives you, and certainly what it's given me, as I've been walking this independent consultant, I work on my own a lot. It's given me the capacity to ask better questions out front and to be clearer with expectations out front. So I feel like if I am a strong and clear communicator from the beginning, then I can help bridge that gap in the relationship and get us on the right path and decide, oh, wait, maybe we're not going to be right together.
Well, clearly, you didn't ask very many questions on the cabin project.
I did not ask enough questions.
See, I'm with Robin on this one because we have our own cabin that we're rehabbing and it's taking 17,000 times longer than I thought it would. So,
It actually will never end.
I know. And in some ways, though, hearing you talk about it gives me pause and more patience for John's escapades that are taking all the time. So maybe it's just normal.
It is.
Not to mention that, you have a cabin project and a basement that flooded at home at your primary residence. So there's the honey-do list is
Long and deep. It's very exciting.
long and deep and wide.
Dirty,
expensive.
And honestly, we talk about this too. What a first world problem to have a second home that is being worked on and is under construction. That's another thing we try to remind ourselves of, not just with the cabin, but with anything. Like, okay. Well, and the perspective, honestly, also comes back to losing both of Betsy's parents. I mean, this really did paint a bigger picture for us. We lost both of her parents to cancer in a 3-year span. So in the first 5 years of our relationship,
In their 60s.
they were in their 60s and someone was actively dying. And so at the end of that journey, we looked at each other and said, oh, life is boring. Isn't that awesome? And to be able to then look at other things that might go a little sideways or not the way you would expect and to say, nobody's dying.
Yeah.
This isn't the worst thing ever.
Right. Even when it was like second worst thing ever, we had that perspective.
Right.
And have had since.
Yep.
And all that foundation of trust and communication played a huge role in supporting one another through those events.
Though, that brings me to, it's so interesting to me that a big brand like Smirnoff takes the time and the effort to do this campaign because they're trying to point that out, that the things you go through, the ups and downs are the same as everybody else's ups and downs, right?
We like to tell people that our gay agenda is whose turn is it to empty the dishwasher.
Yeah.
And we're just as boring as you guys are.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Except for that dog of yours.
Well, he's not boring, but he has issues. He also has his own Instagram account, so I've become one of those people.
Oh my gosh, I did not know.
Gosh, you know what? The hashtag I use is
Georgie's
Georgie is
ridiculous.
ridiculous, but I think it's Georgie_Chihuahua, I think is the Instagram for him.
Georgie is ridiculous. I love it.
Georgie is ridiculous was already taken as an Instagram handle because
Because
I
it's
feel like we
made
should
with
talk some more about Smirnoff and how not that many brands really have gone out on a limb with Love Wins.
More certainly have.
More have.
Yeah.
I saw that Bud Light ad lately
yeah,
where
yeah.
the can is just
Cheerios.
all a rainbow.
Cheerios had a same-sex couple in an ad.
I just said it illustrates how, a gay couple has the same boring agenda and ups and downs in their life as a straight couple. It's just no different. And this is giving us a good opportunity to talk about that.
Yeah, and I actually think that it's both kind of a pedestrian approach, but endearing as well. That at the end of the day, the hashtag love wins is kind of the common denominator for all of our relationships, whether it's how you treat the person who you meet on the street to how you engage in any of your partnerships, whether those are personal or professional. Love is a big catch-all container for a lot of the ways that you engage with relationships, whether it's an intimate love or whether it's just respect.
Right.
Sure. Or
It's also just brilliant marketing.
Well, for sure, but I think it's actually a lot deeper than that.
I read something today that said a new poll shows 62% of Americans, the largest percentage ever, accepting of same-sex couples. And the last poll that they did was like 51% in 2015. So,
Well, and that goes back to visibility matters. I mean, it's why we've been so interested in being visible and saying that it's like you can't hate something when you know it. Well, maybe you can. I mean, that's not true. I kind of hate some things I know.
at least you would hate it with respect to experience instead
Right.
of false pretenses.
Right.
Great
And
point.
to be able to see, we also use the phrase lesbians in the wild, that, it's like, ooh, you're seeing us up close and personal in our environment, and that suddenly makes us more accessible in some ways. And I'm not saying any of this to make it sound like, oh my gosh, we're so unique and amazing. You should really come see us and meet us. It's not that. It's we are boring and regular and just like everybody else. And there's nothing to be afraid of.
Betsy crouching behind the shrub.
Right.
In the wild. Although you are unique and amazing and boring and regular, and I think that's the cool part.
all the things. When we first got together, I like to say that Robin was really wanting to splash around in it, and I was wanting to dip a toe.
You said I wanted to buy a lot of billboards.
Yeah.
And you were not down for that.
Not really.
It probably isn't a reflection of how you felt about each other, but a reflection of what you felt was safe.
Yeah, and our backgrounds, really. I came from a really small conservative northern Michigan town, and Robin grew up in East Lansing, where
There were gay couples holding hands in the hallway in high school in the 80s.
Wow. I didn't have that in my high school in the 90s. Early 90s. That was late 80s, let's be honest.
I hope more high schools have it now than before.
me too.
That's true.
Hashtag prom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to prom with someone who was gay, but he was a gay guy. So,
You were each other's safe bet.
yep.
That's funny.
And your dress had pockets.
Speaking of managing expectations.
Everybody was safe there.
Oh my goodness. I just bought prom stuff recently for Robbie's first prom, my eldest son's prom. He's going with a friend who doesn't have a date. So he didn't know how to buy flowers. So that was a fun one back in May.
Sweatshirt girl's gone.
Really sweet.
No, he's not going with his girlfriend because his girlfriend's sister is a senior and forbade her sister to go to prom this year. So he's going with a friend of his who's a senior, which is, it's complicated.
It is complicated.
Prom politics.
Prom politics. It's something else. But it's funny because Robbie's generation, they just don't care who's gay and who's not. They they find it to be the most dull conversation ever.
Yeah.
And
Even
that's
my
pretty
8-year-old
exciting.
feels
Yeah.
that way too.
Yeah.
Because we have several same-sex parents. of kids in class. It's like, so.
And honestly, I would drink a Smirnoff drink with anybody, really, especially if it's a good cocktail.
Right.
Yeah,
As this one is.
absolutely.
It's delicious.
Anyway, we started the topic of this podcast talking about partnerships, and I find that to be interesting. The theory behind it came from the partnership you had with Smirnoff, but really when you think, partnerships permeate everything we do, right? You have to trust somebody, you have to have a certain expectation of their behavior and your behavior, and that works from very small relationships to very long ones like yours. I don't know, where have they ever gone wrong?
Yeah, I feel like we've covered all of those bases, from trust and communication, or also said another way, managing expectations. We've talked about respect, but also just putting in the time, whether that's nurturing something or just doing the heavy lifting, depending on how you want to classify your role in that partnership.
You know, in terms of the nurturing, it made me think of something else Betsy and I often talk about, which is being really big cheerleaders for each other. And I think that actually extends into the partnerships we have with both of you, because you can cheer for the work that is being done by the partners you're working with too. And I think you want to work with people who you want to cheer for. And that's something that makes us work together as a couple, but also makes us want to keep coming back and working with each of you and your businesses, because we want to cheer for you. We are cheering for the work that you're doing, and we get excited to then be a part of the work that you're doing.
And that's actually a two-way street, because, and I think I can speak for Jen on this too, is that when you're fully behind the mission of an organization or the outcome of a project, then it's so easy to pour your heart and soul into something and to really care about its outcome. And that's true for all the work that I've done for the two of you, for sure.
Well, and first of all, thank you. That's very nice to hear. Yeah. But I think, so that means partnerships take a level of sort of integrity and moral centeredness, perhaps, that you have to believe in what that partner believes in too.
Yeah. And that goes back to trust, don't you think?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, or don't go there in the first place.
And that's okay too. You know, that fork in the relationship, that's cool.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't fit, and that's okay.
Be proud of what you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
You mentioned earlier the idea of effort, and the one thought I had was effort isn't a one-time shot. You don't put the effort in to secure a partnership or organize something and then you're finished. You can't, wash your hands of it and walk away. It's a constant piece of effort, right? To keep that healthy and keep those lines open, those lines of communication.
And similarly, in a personal or domestic relationship, a partnership, the courtship process is the audition. That's not your one shot. Right. It takes a lot of effort, ongoing. It's a constant input, or else you find yourself with, not a lot in front of you.
We always like to joke about it being a bank account, right? You put in deposits and then you can take out withdrawals. So you'll have times in which you are not putting deposits in, or you are needing something from your partner. But as long as you've made adequate deposits, that reserve is there. So you just really have to mind it carefully to make sure it's healthy.
Or even just ask for like an extension.
Like a little bit of credit.
A line of creddet.
Don't overdraw.
I promise next month, I promise.
I'd like to overdraw on this drink, you guys. It's so delicious.
It is amazing.
Yes.
It looks like none of us have left much on the table in terms of the beverage or the conversation. One more time, this is called Lovin Time.
Lovin Time.
Which is really, I actually love that it's Lovin Time, but it's also love and time.
Oh,
so clever. Aren't we all just so clever?
so good.
I'm so glad I know you, Karen.
But what I would say to all of our listeners is run thee out and find a booze provider that has a great Smirnoff bottle and find a couple of smiling faces on that. Do that part. Your money is going to go to a good place and you can make a great cocktail. And we super appreciate our friends for giving us the opportunity to invent a drink in their honor.
And I can't wait to buy my bottle and do a selfie with them, like in the grocery store aisle. I'm going to hashtag the shit out of that.
If anybody finds Robin and Betsy on the shelves, do us a favor and hit us up on Instagram because we want to see where that lands in the United States. That would be fun.
What I really, really, really want to happen is, besides the selfies with the bottle with Robin and Betsy's kissy faces, I also want to hear from people. I want to hear about what is the recipe for your partnerships, the recipe that you think is really, really going to work for you or that has stood the test of time. Robin, where can people shout out to us about that?
Well, they can go to thespeakeasypodcast.com and check out the drink recipe there, right? See photos of this gorgeous cocktail that Russia has created. And they can find you on Instagram and Facebook at Easy Underground.
Thanks for joining us, you guys. We really appreciate you taking the time to be on our podcast.
Thank you for inviting us. We're very flattered.
So much fun. Love wins.
Love wins.
Love wins.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Next episode, we will talk through why transparency is important and sometimes scary.